Good morning. Thank you so much for showing up early. So the talk that I'm going to give today is Everybody Hurts Sometimes, and it's about vulnerability, and vulnerability particularly in the state of now. Thanks, Nick. First of all, I'm from Ottawa, Canada. I'm the Director of Social Media Services for a company called Gilmore Marketing. I joined social media about 4 years ago, and I can't believe that I actually get to do this for a living now every day. I'm very, very passionate about social media. I actually usually speak about social media for social good, so this is a little bit different for me. This talk actually came from a blog post that I wrote last year after starting to hear a lot of stuff about personal brands and how you had to protect your personal brand and be very careful about what you talked online. And what I started seeing were these how-to posts and what you should talk about and what you should not talk about. And I don't know about you, but my life isn't perfect. I'm a single mom. I have frustrations on a day-to-day basis. And the post actually came after quite a hard summer for me. I had some serious neurological issues, and that involved a lot of doctor appointments and CAT scans and MRIs. And when I talked about it online, somebody actually said to me, you should stop complaining. You sound like a hypochondriac. And I don't know about you, but having to do CAT scans and MRIs doesn't really say hypochondriac to me. It also was based on conversations that I had with a really good friend, Chris A. Young, who you should follow, he's awesome, about how we tend to celebrate our success in public but suffer in private. And in the interconnected world that we live in, how very sad is that when we have all of these people that we can connect to very easily and we don't take advantage of that. Somebody asked me if this was going to apply to brands, and the unequivocal answer is a lot of this can apply to brands. Matteo Mouselink is actually going to be speaking about that a little bit later, but when brands are authentic, there is so much advertising, there is so much information out there, so think about how much more powerful your message is when you do some vulnerability and how much more effectively you can connect with your audience. So before I get into the vulnerability itself, there's a couple of things. Unfortunately, when you put yourself out there and you open up, that means that you're opening yourself up for support and criticism. And social media is like the real world, and unfortunately, not everybody is nice in the real world, and that also applies to the online world. So there's not a lot that you can do about that. I think Unmarketing says it best, you're not the jackass whisperer, so you do what you can, and when those people react in a negative way, there's usually a little voice in the back of your head that tells you that you're dealing with someone who's not very nice. Listen to that voice and listen to your heart. And Carlos Delgado actually said something interesting yesterday. He mentioned that he was tweeting in Spanish, and someone said that he should speak only in English on Twitter. And your social media presence is yours to own. So you decide what you share, and if the people who are receiving this information aren't happy with what you're sharing, that's just unfortunate. You know, they don't have to follow you, and you can block them if it comes to that. There's also a big difference between being vulnerable and open and authentic and complaining all the time. I think we all follow people like that who complain about the weather, who complain about their kids all the time, who complain about whatever. Being authentic means that you give yourself the freedom to talk about whatever you want, but it doesn't mean that you just complain about everything. And again, you decide the content that you share. So being vulnerable means being real and being authentic, but it doesn't mean the same thing to everyone, and it doesn't mean that you have to share all of your innermost secrets or every single bad thing that happens to you. You decide how much you want to share. So why do I believe that you should be authentic? If you haven't had a chance to hear the work of Brené Brown, go to the TED Talks website and look for her talk, The Power of Vulnerability. So the number one reason you should be vulnerable is because people who are vulnerable are actually happier. They believe, she's actually done clinical research, and what she's found is that people who were wholehearted had the courage to be imperfect. They allowed themselves the compassion to be kind to themselves first, and then to be kind to others. And as a result, they had much deeper connections that were based in authenticity. And I just think that's really beautiful. And it means, you know, we can all use deeper connections and more meaningful connections. And she says something in her talk that the word courage comes from the word heart. And it actually means to tell the story of who you are with your whole heart. And I think that's a really beautiful quote as well. The other reason I think that you should be vulnerable is that the connections you create will be much deeper and much more meaningful. And they'll also be more relevant to you when you're sharing an experience that you've gone through, whether it be with a child, and I'm thinking about Heather, who spoke yesterday, who went through something, you know, very tragic, but ended up connecting with a whole community of people who helped her go through that. That was a very relevant and timely connection for her. So when you're vulnerable and you share real experiences about what you're going through in the moment, you create much more relevant connections. So in conclusion, I would challenge you to be open and be real. There's a lot of talk about authenticity, but authenticity also means opening yourself up and being a little bit vulnerable. And I think no doubt in my mind that what's going to happen is you're going to end up with deeper, more meaningful relationships, and a great support system is what you end up with as well. So I hope you will do that, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you.